we moved from Dothan, Alabama to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I was a pretty socially awkward kid who later would grow into a socially awkward adult. But at this time, I was just a socially awkward kid. So my mother, thinking that this would really help me and improve my social skills, put me in Girl Scouts. And I hated it because we had this troop leader. Now I like the Girl Scouts. I buy their cookies, but at the time, I was not into it. We had this den mother who was a pageant mom, and she wanted us to do badges like looking your best. Ooh. And I was like, oh, God, this is such a waste of my time. I could be reading. I was one of those kids who read books during recess, and I was just sending the geek needle all the way into the red. By this time. So, really thinking back on it, I probably could have benefited from some of the social skills that Girl Scouts might have taught me. But at the time, I was not into it. I didn't want to do it. I went to my mom and said, please, Mom, please, I don't want to be in the Girl Scouts. They're so boring, and they're not my colors. I don't look good in green or khaki. Please. She looked at me, she said, Danielle, you have to do something social, okay? You can't just, we have to find something for you to do. And find it we did. The very next month, I joined the Indian Princesses. The Indian Princesses is an organization for dads and daughters, and it is so cool. You get to belong to a tribe. We were the Arapaho. Little did I know that my dad tells me later that they called the bunch of us girls in the troop the Little Hoes. You get to go to meetings at various other people's houses where you get to do really cool activities. Okay, so when we were in Girl Scouts and I was trying to get out of the Girl Scouts, we were doing these like yarn tying activities, and I really wanted out. So I would sabotage. I would purposefully mistie the yarn on my friendship bracelets in an attempt to get out. It didn't work. Everybody thought I just sucked at yarn tying. But in Indian Princesses, there was no tying of yarn. Oh no, we had really badass crafts. We made tomahawks out of balsa wood and strips of leather from Hobby Lobby. It was amazing. But best of all, you got to pick your very own Indian name. And my mother dubbed me White Swan, which was so generous of her because in terms of grace I was more like a penguin than a swan, but nobody seemed to notice. And my dad, now here's where memory gets fuzzy, because I remember my dad was Sitting Duck. And when I went back to tell him about having told this story, he said, no, Danielle, no, I was Prancing Buck. That was it. Now, looking back, I realize that this is probably the most politically incorrect, terribly insensitive, really awful thing that I've ever done in my life. However, at the time, there was nothing better than knowing that I was going to go to the house of my new friend Rainbow Flower and her dad's squatting dog, knowing that in a few short minutes we would be gathering and singing traditional Arapaho songs like Jambalaya Crawfish Pie Filet Gumbo. Sing it. You don't know. Jambalaya Crawfish Pie Filet Gumbo. Yes, you know it, yes. That time-honored Arapaho song. It's so good. So yeah, it was wonderful, and I thought, yes, this is so much better than the Girl Scouts. So every year they would have a big, I think the Girl Scouts do this too, they would have a big camp, and they call it a powwow. And all the dads and all the daughters get together. And I remember, to my 8-year-old mind, I remember there being hundreds of dads and daughters there. Having spoken with my dad afterwards, he said, no, I think there were like this many.
Hundreds.
There are so many. You loom so large in my heart. Yes, so I thought there were very many. But I knew that out of all the dads, my dad was by far the coolest, because not only did he have most of his hair, which many of the other dads did not, and I viewed this as a badge of honor, but my dad had a guitar. And with a guitar, you could sing such time-honored chants as Jambalaya, Crawfish Pie, Feely Gumbo. And so I was really excited about that. I knew that that sort of made my dad really cool, and I was cool by association. So I kept waiting for him to pull out his guitar on this camp, on this powwow, and he didn't. So we did all the things. You know, we pitched our tent, we played games, we ate ravioli out of a can, like all the things that real Indians would have done. Oh no. And he didn't pull out his guitar, and I was really pretty disappointed. So you know, night fell and it's getting dark, and we roasted some marshmallows and s'mores, and it was delicious, but I was still pretty disappointed. So I crawled into the tent and sort of zipped myself up with my sleeping bag, all let down. And my dad pokes his head in the tent. He says, Danielle, come here, come on, let's go. And grabs his guitar, and I thought, yes, haha, good, okay. And he starts to walk away from the campsite. And I mean, like, in my memory, and I realize now that there's this gigantic gap between how things looked when I was 8 and how things probably were, but we went for miles. In reality, I'm pretty sure if we had gone for miles, we would have like come to a state highway and things like that. But we walked into the woods, away from the campfire, away from everybody else, and it was really dark, and I was stumbling over tree roots and rocks, and I was a little sleepy and a little confused, and I didn't quite know what all was happening. But finally, he found a spot that he liked and sat down, and he started to play. And he played beautiful songs like For Emily, Wherever I May Find Her, and Moonshadow. And he played kind of hilarious songs like The Cat Came Back. Do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. For those of you who don't, it's a Canadian song about a man who tries more and more violent ways to kill a cat who keeps coming back. At the time, I thought it was hilarious, although now I think it's a little morbid. But we're really okay with this. And I was so glad at that point that he had brought his guitar, not only so that he could play the awesome songs, but so that he could use it as a weapon, because I unjudiciously had forgotten to bring my tomahawk, and I didn't know if we were attacked by wolves. So he had his guitar, and he played all these lovely songs, and it was so dark that all that I could see in the moonlight was light glinting off the rim of his truly enormous glasses, and then a little bit of the same on the rim of his guitar. So for that moment, all there was in the entire world was my dad, Prancing Buck, and his guitar, and me singing these strange heathen hymns into the night. And I don't think that my experience in Indian Princesses taught me anything whatsoever about actual Native American culture. And I also don't think that it in any way skewed my personality into a less socially awkward direction. But I am grateful all the same for that strange moment in the dark.